So in our last video, we talked about how intra-abdominal pressure is very important when it comes to stabilizing our low back, both in everyday activities and when we get into exercise. It's vital for keeping good form, taking pressure off of our low back muscles, and preventing injury. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the first two steps necessary to work on intra-abdominal pressure and be able to apply it to our movements that we do throughout the day. The first one of those is just using our diaphragm to breathe, and the other one is using it to stabilize. So when we're talking about using our diaphragm to breathe, we need to get into a 3-month baby position. So that's going to be laying on our back with our feet up on an object, whether that's a chair, couch, bed, anything like that, where our knees and our hips are at about 90 degrees. In this position, we're going to put one hand on our stomach, one hand on our chest, and we're just going to work on taking deep breaths down into our belly. So when I take a breath in, my stomach should expand, and when I take a breath out, it should relax back down. So every breath, whether that's in or out, most of the movement should be coming from the stomach and very little from up in the chest. So all you're going to do is you're going to lay here and you're going to work on this for 5 to 10 breaths, just taking breaths in and out and working on all of that breath coming from down in the diaphragm. That's how we work on our diaphragm actually being used to breathe and to get oxygen into our body. Then we need to transition to using it to stabilize. And the way that we work on that without getting too crazy to start with is we put our hands on our side and we kind of just push in as hard as we can to kind of cave in the sides of our stomach a little bit. And then using our diaphragm, we go and we try to push our hands out to the side. So we let them kind of sink in and push them back out. That is using our diaphragm as a stabilizing mechanism instead of a breathing one. We're going to publish another video here shortly, and we might just add it on to the end of this one, that's going to explain how the diaphragm only has 2 functions. It can either breathe or it can stabilize or do some combination of the both. When it comes to the diaphragm function in the body, it can do one of 2 things. 1, we can breathe. 2, we can stabilize. Now, ideally, when we're talking about intra-abdominal pressure, we're doing both of these at the same time. So we like to draw this graph here, this little picture, that shows that we can either breathe or stabilize in the diaphragm at any given time. Now, this section in the middle, where the triangles overlap, is what we call intra-abdominal pressure, which is when we are able to continue breathing but maintain pressure at the same time to stabilize the low back. The problem with most people is our triangles overlap about this much to start with, so we have very little activity where we can do both safely and our low back is protected. Going through the exercises that we've shown in this video, the 3-month supine position and other exercises that we're going to show you in future videos, we're going to slowly be able to move these triangles closer to closer and get more and more overlap so that we have as much space as possible overlapping, giving us the biggest functional range of intra-abdominal pressure, so that the only times we're not doing both stabilizing and pressurizing during exercise in our lives is when we're doing either a max lift, which would be over here where all we want to do is stabilize to protect the low back, or over here on this side when all we're doing is breathing, which would be you're getting chased by a bear, you're finished a 5K and had a nice kick at the end, and you just cross the finish line and you just want to collapse. So just remember that the diaphragm does have 2 functions. We all know about the breathing one. We all learned that in school, whether that was in high school, anatomy class, or anywhere else. We all know that function. It's the stabilizing function that most people don't know about. That's the important part for keeping our low back safe during exercise, and that's the thing we're going to continue to work on in future videos when we are combining both breathing and stabilizing at the same time into an exercise.